Hello to everyone. Welcome to this important and unique panel on women and youth create space on North Korea and South Korea's DMZ, the demilitarized zone. There's so much going on in the world today that the attention seems to go to places where there's armed conflict. But this is a project very much women led and for peace. In the spirit of UN Security Council 1325, this event and the project we're presenting seeks to engage actors and stakeholders of the visioning of a new future in and across the demilitarized zone of Korea through the creation of a physical and virtual space to bring together women and youth working towards peace and shared prosperity in Korea and worldwide. The goal is to go beyond the political, physical, and mental barriers to reconciliation and development through the envisioning of a landscape for Korean women from North and from South to meet, as well as an international hub for women, peace, and the environment. Building on events of this theme, which we have presented in Geneva and New York at the UN. I would now like to introduce Ms. Carolyn Hansen. She is the representative of Women's Federation for World Peace International in Geneva, and she is also president of the UN Committee on the Status of Women in Geneva. Does a great job and very busy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lois. Lois is a trusted partner for many years. Actually, we began this effort, this small project at the DMZ together, working together at the Human Rights Council, I think almost 7 or 8 years ago. We had a series of 4 different events over 5 or 6 years where we were promoting this idea towards the Korean government, towards the different UN institutions, and also among the NGO community. Of course, North Korea is a place that we don't hear much good news from. And so this project is, even it may seem a little bit almost too idealistic, but the more we are working on it, the more we are talking about it, the more we see the enthusiasm from people from the highest even political level to the NGOs who do this kind of work in other places, the more I believe that it is possible. You know, the CSW this year it's about poverty and financial institutions and funding for the sake of alleviating poverty. And this session is poverty is one of the barriers that can be broken down through such a kind of a project. So let me just describe a little bit what this project is. The idea that we've been promoting over these years is to establish a place, if possible, at the DMZ, in the DMZ, where women from North and South can meet together and just begin in a bottom-up kind of focus to talk, to get to know each other, to work on little projects, entrepreneurship or just little development projects together, and areas that are not threatening to the political processes, And even right away, we didn't think bringing in the whole international NGO community, but just let the women of North and South Korea sit together and work things out themselves, something that they haven't really been able to do. And my own NGOs, the Women's Federation for World Peace International, we have actually our home base is in Seoul, in Korea. So we have been making cross-border humanitarian efforts, and some of our Women's Federation leadership have been part of, different, I think it was a commission that was unification and commission that was set up even by the government of South Korea in cooperation with North Korea. And so we've really been we're not just, it's not just a wild idea that has no basis to it, because we are working there. In the year 2007, Women's Federation, actually, we brought a delegation of women, over 700 women from all over the world, into North Korea. Of course, just the southern tip of North Korea, but nevertheless inside North Korea. And we were even allowed to meet with some North Korean women leaders. Of course, we brought 700. I think they brought 5 or 6, but nevertheless, it was still it was kind of a historic meeting, in fact. And so we know peace processes are stuck. We know even it's up and down, and currently right now, I would say it's further down than the opening is a little bit less than it was a couple of years ago. But we firmly believe that the process it has to do with trust. It has to do with there not being trust at that level of political discussion and who's on whose side. So we want to put all these things aside and just working through women, and now recently more and more stimulated by the idea of bringing young people into this, and maybe in particular young women, although not only, and just see what they can do to develop these simple processes of peace and development that will help to break down the mistrust at the higher levels. The automatic response then is, of course, to think, well, if it works at that level, maybe we can try something else a little bit, a little bit higher. And so, and maybe just to go back also to the year 2000, as quickly, because the founder of the Women's Federation for World Peace, Dr. Sun Myung Moon, made a speech at the United Nations on peace zones. The year 2000 was a big year for great declarations and new ideas and a new era. And this speech and this idea of peace zones, of course, it's not a new idea, but the idea was creating a peace zone in between areas of conflict, an area that would be devoted to development and working together really more on the local level. And somehow from this point, many different ideas and projects came forth also from within our own organizations, but not only. And we held a series of events also at the UN in Geneva in the year 2009. There was an event that we held together with the Universal Peace Federation, and it was co-organized by UNIDIR, United Nations Institute on Disarmament Research. And a speaker from UPF actually made some proposal based on this idea of a peace zone in the DMZ, not just a little place that we are talking about, but a whole big, area dedicated to peaceful development, and including a United Nations major entity could be based there, because as we know, we have 3 main UN headquarters or offices in New York, Vienna, Geneva, and then we have regional offices. But actually, there is no major office in this part of the world that actually houses the largest number of people in the world. Actually, not to mention the cradle of civilizations and religions and many, many things in Asian area. So this kind of as an inspiration, the idea to really develop this area into a place that could be really devoted to peace, and bringing in several UN agencies and Peace Park, and it's very exciting. All these things have been written up. There are actually plans for these ideas, but of course it's not so easy to implement. But Anyway, so we did that at the UN with a room full of people. And again, in 2014, there was another event that Women's Federation co-sponsored, and that was on UN peace on the Korean Peninsula, establishing a UN headquarters at the DMZ. That was 2014 in October. And we even had the vice governor of Gyeonggi province, the vice mayor of Paju City. These are, of course, places in South Korea that are right at the border. So again, it's more realistic. It feels like, there was enthusiasm there. We had the Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights was even a speaker. We had parliamentarians, we had a retired Swiss general, a BBC correspondent. It was quite something. And they all gave their ideas about the possibility of something like that actually being established. So anyway, maybe coming back then to, of course, because it just couldn't be realized so simply, obviously. But what is the missing point? The missing point is that underlying trust, that fabric, that we can build from the bottom up. And so we came up with this idea soon after 2014 well, let's the women try something different. We don't start with the massive project. We start with something small. We bring women together. We bring in youth. And we see what can happen. And we know great things can happen in that kind of environment. So, and from that point, then that's when I met Lois. And that's when we started having these events at the Human Rights Council. And we had many amazing speakers over the years. And I just want to maybe make one little point, because we got in touch with the special rapporteur on North Korea. And he had a difficult task. He works with the Human Rights Council and from the Special Procedures Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. And he was so sort of frustrated because he wasn't allowed in North Korea. And so we wrote to him and we told him about our project. And I just want to read a small quote that he had at one of our events, because we had him speaking several times. He was once was a speech that he sent. He was in South America, but I just want to say, here's what he said at one of our events. He said, the event was called Korea Women, South and North, Peace, Reconciliation, Rights, and Development. And the whole point was sort of launching this project. And his name was Tomas Ojea Quintana. And so he said, the event really captures the spirit with which I have approached my human rights mandate on North Korea. He said, when I hear that women from the South and their networks globally have been reaching out to women in the North, investing in reconciliation, dialogue, development, cultural and humanitarian projects that have built bridges of trust, I feel encouraged about the future of the Korean Peninsula. And the idea to launch a concrete proposal of establishing in or near the DMZ a peace building, at the time we were calling it Peace Building Partnership Meeting Place for Women. We hadn't encapsulated the title yet. He said, I feel for the first time hopeful about prospects for peace on the Korean Peninsula. He said, a future forged through the energy and goodwill of the Korean people, which meets their hopes, expectations, and human rights. I stand by you and with you in your efforts and wish you an enlightening discussion today. And maybe I will stop there with my kind of introduction. At this point, in the year maybe 2019, I met with who is currently one of our partners in this project. She is the founder of Border Meetings, actually. She will be speaking to us later. She has prepared a video, but I just wanted to say, with her coming, because she is an environmentalist, she designs peace zones actually in environmental surroundings. And so from what we were calling a women's peace and development project became Women, Peace, and the Environment. And she brought in many elements related to environment and working with this place at the DMZ that was sort of untouched over 70 plus years. to really make something very beautiful and attractive and not just functional, but very, very meaningful in other ways. So with that, I will move on to maybe introduce, yeah, Lois, did you want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to share that there is a video of the women's march across the DMZ that was done some years ago. And
Yes.
women from both sides held hands and sang together. And that, I think, revealed the spirit and the goals of women to be able to come together in the peace movement.
Yes, yes, I've seen that. I think many have seen that. That's a very famous gathering, in fact. Yeah, so maybe I will go move then to our first speaker, maybe if you don't mind, Adriana, I will start with you. And ask Adriana Gascoigne. She is the founder and CEO of Girls in Tech, a Nashville-based nonprofit organization devoted to empowering, educating, engaging women in the tech industry. She is an author of a very exciting book called Tech Boss Lady: How to Start Up, Disrupt, and Thrive as a female tech founder. She is as well a board member of the Harvard Kennedy School's Women in Public Policy program, and she has, of course, maybe she even can tell a little bit her story of how she got engaged through her own maybe difficult experience in being discriminated against as a woman in her field. Huh? So, Adriana, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Carolyn. It's a pleasure to be here. Happy Women's History Month and happy International Women's Day last week. It's great to be here as always because we're talking about something extremely important, not only for the UN Women's Federation, but also girls in tech and the world, right? We really want to be focusing on creating peace within historically challenging situations and populations around the world. And so for us at Girls in Tech, it's really powerful to see a lot of that sort of peace projects and being able to unite around technology and innovation and creation and designing. I see a lot of that going on around the world within Girls in Tech. And so I'm excited that the UN has put this at the forefront of their mandate. So just a little bit about me. Girls in Tech. I started Girls in Tech in 2007 in San Francisco, and I was one of 35 employees at a tech startup and the only female. So I wanted to make sure that our gender wasn't marginalized and pushed aside, but that we were celebrated and included in innovation and development of new technologies, products, and services, especially since I was having so much fun building and innovating at these tech startups. The company I worked for was much like Netflix and YouTube combined. And it was a little bit before its time, but it was a really, really interesting platform. And we were getting a lot of great traction. Unfortunately, the business didn't go anywhere, but it was a great learning experience for me. And as a result, Girls in Tech was born. So it's been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. And, from that point on, I realized that, we needed to really create an environment, a platform, a community where women around the world could come together and get that support they need within the STEM fields. So we really wanted to focus on university to mid-level career women getting the advanced education, advanced skills to really excel in their careers and achieve their career aspirations. So we built sort of a chapter model. We, as I mentioned, launched in San Francisco, and then our second chapter was in Los Angeles, and then New York, and then Kuwait, of all places, with the help of the U.S. Department of State. We were able to launch there as well. And we would pilot all of our programs in the San Francisco, in our headquarters, in our headquarters, and then deploy all the programs around the world. So now we're in 35 cities around the world with over 130,000 active members, and looking to work on meaningful projects as well that sort of are focused more in the human rights, social justice space. And that's sort of why we started partnering with the UN and Carolyn and the Women's Federation. So this peace project is really, really exciting. And it's something that has sort of been on my mind for a while. So when Carolyn brought this to the forefront, I got really excited. The team got really excited. I think there's just a lot that we can do there. So when we started the discussions, I was thinking about ways that girls in tech could add value and bring a lot of the education and the resources and the talent that we have available, not just around the world, but specifically in Seoul, South Korea. We have a very active Girls in Tech chapter in Seoul. Thousands of members are involved, very active members. We have a really strong leadership team that's been with us for over 8 years now. So one of our longest standing chapters in existence for 17 years. The existence of Girls in Tech is 17 years. We had our 17-year anniversary in February. So it really is a no-brainer to produce programs in Seoul, Korea. We have a really strong volunteer staff. We have a really strong brand and presence there. And it's really easy for us to deploy programs in Seoul in particular. So we've since the beginning of the discussions, I've gone back to my team and we've done some internal brainstorms on what we could offer this region in particular. Obviously, AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, those are very hot button topics and areas of interest for our members and for us as an organization. So we really wanted to double down and develop curriculum and programming and create an event around this. So I worked with Dr. Jo Yoon and Kirsten from Motivate, which are our instructors. And we're devising a curriculum that includes both what we call dream sessions and a workshop. So essentially being able to learn different topics that are important, such as the introduction to the evolution of AI, generative AI foundations and implications, as well as current trends in AI and what it means for the people that are participating and people that are developing these technologies. So this will be a series of lectures and workshops, basically aimed at bringing together North Korean women and South Korean women through the exploration of AI. And this session would essentially provide a neutral environment for women from both sides to build meaningful relationships and potentially design new technologies in the field of AI. So this would be an opportunity for us to bring amazing speakers, thought leaders, really learn about trends and implications. And the sessions are really designed to empower attendees with knowledge and skills that can be applied to their personal and professional lives. So this is a really exciting time. As I was speaking to Carolyn earlier, we work really fast at Girls in Tech. So once we plant the seed, we're developing the curriculum, we're getting all the folks together. And I'm happy to announce that we already have a date. So it would be October 5th and 6th. So it's a weekend boot camp that we're planning on producing in Seoul, South Korea. Obviously, still a work in progress in terms of planning and location specifically. But we'd love the UN and the Women's Federation to be very much involved. We would love the women from South Korea to be involved, and we'd love women from North Korea to be involved. So I'm not sure how we can do this, and I'm learning from you, and I'd love to get your guidance on it. But I think that this is something that's very, very important to, as I said, to me, to the organization, and we want to make sure that this goal is at the forefront of this project. We can do many more. This is a pilot, and we're hoping that it just goes off with a bang. But I'm open to answer any questions that you might have, or go into a little more detail about the curriculum. But really exciting, the progress that we're making.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Yeah, it's good to work with someone who is also so quick, actually. Sometimes we get caught up in all kinds of things. Well, of course, North Korea is not going to be quick getting into North Korea. We know that. But that doesn't have to prevent us. It doesn't have to slow us down in trying, actually, huh? And I think we will come back to that point. Maybe I should just mention here that the project that we are talking about creating, there's a concept note, there's some kind of proposals of what actually we want to do in certain different stages. But one of the most recent additions, as we realized it wasn't going to be so easy just to go in or near the DMZ and create this place, beautiful place, maybe designed by young people. And it wouldn't be so easy to bring women and youth from North Korea, probably at the first, at the outset. But so we kind of got into this idea, and we had one partner also, that Dr. Colette Majuselli, who's with us also in the project leading up to this. We started talking about the idea of the metaverse, and that if we cannot make the place, how can we sell it? How can we start selling it even before it exists? And that is by showing what it could look like. Because even just defining it in words, which I was always doing, it's not the same as seeing something actually in, how it could actually look in real life. So this is our most recent element, and that is, of course, where Adriana comes in with her team. And maybe, Adriana, let's just take at least one question to you. And could you tell us a little bit more about how you see the curriculum that you're designing could help us specifically in this project, actually? Huh?
Yeah. So I think it's important. The number one thing, it's important to bring the women together, right? I feel like as much as I love the metaverse, and I think it's important to visualize the project and the location and the area and how we're going to design it, I see that as something that's very powerful. But I do feel like the in-person connection, the in-person interaction, developing relationships, the unspoken nuances of nonverbal communication as well as verbal communication is really important. So I am a strong believer in producing these events in person. I know it's easier said than done because there are challenges in bringing together these two populations. But I do feel that through education and through learning and through creating awareness, I think that that's a really, really powerful way to bring women together, specifically under the guise of innovation and creation and design. So if you're putting together just like a hackathon, right? Like or a design-a-thon, you're putting together populations, they get together in groups, and everyone sort of plays a different role, whether it's a developer or a designer or product person, business development person, marketer, and they're each bringing something to the table. Now, when you're collaborating and creating something unique, trying to solve some kind of problem, then you sort of build a bond, right? Sort of like a little family. And in those bonds, you create trust, you build trust, and you're able to build relationships, not just for that event, not just to finish that project, but long-term relationships. And that to me is, I love technology, but the power is in the relationship building, and the power is in the creation and the innovation of what you're designing, right? So I think in terms of AI, the topic of AI obviously is on everyone's minds, whether you're a large company or just an individual, not even in tech. It's going to impact us all in a big way, some very positive ways and some very negative ways. But I think it's important to create awareness and educate, but also bring together the populations so that they connect and grow and build things together.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Very well said. I don't know, Sarah, do we have sound to the recording?
Yes, let me go ahead and start the
Okay,
presentation.
let me just quickly introduce her. Thank you. We had someone, we had Sarah working with Lois in the Women's United Nations Research Network, has been working on, we received the video from Dr. Anna Grishting. Maybe I could just introduce her quickly. She is an architect, urbanist, musician, and she is the founder of Border Meetings. She is a doctor of design, studied at Harvard University, also in the field of urbanism and she has a architecture diploma. Sorry, everything is abbreviated here. Architecture diploma. She is a senior fellow, at the Institute for Environmental Diplomacy and Security at the University of Vermont. And she is a friend of mine in Geneva. And as I said, it was really through her and we have worked together in the Geneva Peace Weeks project and on different occasions trying to promote this idea with her very strongly, as you will see now in this recording, bringing in the element of the environment, how the environment could play a really important part of this project, and maybe convincing a whole new sector of people about it. So, Sarah, thank you.
Greetings. It's a great pleasure to present the Korea DMZ Peace Incubator, Seeding the Future. I apologize for not being with you in this session. This interactive project seeks to engage actors and stakeholders in the visioning of a new future in the demilitarized zone of Korea through the creation of a peace zone where women from North and South Korea can meet and interact with women from all over the world. It aims to gather experts in environmental peace building, specialists on the natural features and future ecologies of the DMZ zone, cultural actors and peace activists with women and youth. The goal is to go beyond the political, physical, and mental barriers to co-create a landscape and infrastructure for Korean women, as well as an international hub for women, peace, and the environment. The objective is to gather solutions, ideas, and visions for this space from local, regional, and global actors, building on existing visions for the Korean DMZ and engaging the opinions and visions of North Koreans. It is not only the end goal of realizing this project with the involvement of Korean governments, but also the process of co-creating it, of sharing ideas, of engaging partners, and creating grassroots conversations, all of which are significant in the process of reconciliation, of peace building, and of memory creation. It can create new ways of thinking and looking at peace, and even new ways of thinking of a future UN representation in the region. The approach is one of multi-stakeholder participative design, and to incubate the co-creative process, a number of questions are suggested to the participants to engage them to contribute their ideas and visions for the project. These relate to the types of activities, programs, designs, infrastructures, and attributes of a proposed space, as well as questions related to accessibility and on ways to reach out to North Koreans. The concept behind this is to go from an ego to eco-diplomacy, using cultural, scientific, environmental, citizen, and digital diplomacy, based on inclusive peace building and with women, peace, and the environment. From human-centric laws to earth-centric laws. As Ban Ki-moon said, inclusive peace is the idea that all stakeholders in a society should have a role in defining and shaping peace, including women's groups. Wangari Maathai was the first person to win the Nobel Peace Prize, where peace was related to the environment for the Green Belt movement. So this started off as a grassroots movement and then went on to become an atlas of ecosystems and human well-being for the whole of Kenya. So we're also co-creating peace with nature, and creating these new spaces is conceived as an inclusive act of healing, co-creating and reconciliation, through which members on both sides of divided societies work together across old boundaries in a new inclusive space where the divisive past is not forgotten but surmounted. So we're also looking at earth rights, nature rights, and human rights. Kum Sil Kang, the former Minister of Justice of Korea and Executive Director of People for Earth Korea, says the Korean demilitarized zone could be granted rights, just as rivers, mountains, and forests have been granted legal rights. With People for Earth Korea, we are working to foster ecozoic cultures based on Earth jurisprudence. This is a philosophy of law and human governments that is based on the fact that humans are only one part of a wider community of beings, and that the welfare of each member of that community is dependent on the welfare of the Earth as a whole. Here we can see the endangered species and endemic species that have been identified by scientists in the demilitarized zone. The white-naped crane, red-crowned crane, Siberian deer, Korean goral, leopard cat, yellow-throated marten. So these are all species that need to be considered in the future planning of the DMZ. Looking at architecture, urbanism, and landscape, this is an image of a workshop, a conference with Koreans and international people discussing the future of the DMZ as a peace park. And making reference to other examples around the world, this is the Green Line buffer zone in Nicosia, looking at all the different scales that we need to work at, from the small parcels of the divided city to the whole landscape of the buffer zone, and proposing different scenarios along this buffer zone. Transforming the military infrastructures into nature observation structures. Some examples of designs we've done with our students. This is a riparian area in the buffer zone that we are restoring, regenerating. The home of cooperation in the buffer zone where both communities can meet. So this can be a model for the space that we are seeking to design. It's inside the buffer zone, supported by several embassies and NGOs. So there are already precedents. Women have met across the in the DMZ, across the DMZ, with women from North Korea. So we are also building on these initiatives. There is also a Swiss angle, as the Swiss armed forces are present in the DMZ and have a space there. So we can also reach out to the neutrality of the Swiss to help construct this, and also look at the existing buildings for a future reuse. This is our former president, Micheline Canmiret, who stepped across the border of the DMZ. So also building on the women who have worked on this question. We also have the question of sacred sites, the Mount Gyeomgang-sang, Diamond Mountain, where the meeting between North and South Korean women was hosted by Women's Federation for World Peace. So looking at integrating the idea of the sacred and the sacred sites, and also this relation to nature that we find in Korean shamanism, the role of women in the Korean shamanism, how to reconnect to nature. And of course, youth, women, and NGOs must have a role in this. We've worked previously with the Mirai Project, who are looking at the question of bringing together women from North and South Korea and youth, and also the importance of NGOs in creating a future peace park. And as we see, civil society is increasingly important in all the transformations happening around the world. It's also about biodiversity conservation and environmental peace building, looking at nature and culture. Here we see the cranes, and also how in shamanic culture they're transformed into the crane dance. They are migratory species that nest in the DMZ, and there's already a project in North Korea which we could connect with. So we're talking about environmental diplomacy, and this is the Crane project in North Korea that could also be a model for our work. So it's also about sharing what remains common, which is the Chuseok festival in North and South Korea that is still celebrated. So we can also build on these celebrations. And we're looking also at Korean cosmetics and traditional plants, that beauty could be a way of bringing women together. And working with ethnobotany. This was presented to Clarence France, and they were very interested in this idea. So that this could be a way of bringing women, culture, and peace together. We also have the arts, different art projects, and creating social spaces and businesses, working with the landscape, and also finding places where this space could be accessible. So maybe locating near to the railway stations. There's also been this idea of a UN office. So this next UN office could be located in and around the DMZ, and the Women's Space for Peace and Environment could be a seed. So it would be a new UN office which would be focused on women, environment, youth, and peace. So the Future Assembly is about saying, how do we live together, but not just with, it's more going beyond the Anthropocene and looking at all the species and living beings and entities that are in our ecosystems to create our new future. So the meta zone, the meta space, is also an area where we can collaborate and create these designs. This was already used by the Pyeongchang Peace Forum, which I attended a few years ago. So this idea is the metaverse as a virtual space for collaboration, for designing a laboratory to design a real space in the DMZ, and for the virtual space in the metaverse. So these are just some examples of the Pyeongchang example. And finally, we have some conceptual frameworks for the DMZ in which this project for women could be inserted, looking at who are all the stakeholders that we need to bring in for this vision, from seed to garden to park, from incubator to hub, from community space to UN space for women. So, there's also a timeline, different scales that we need to work on. How do we go forward, engaging with North and South Koreans, strategic partners, key partners in Korea, common past for Korea, looking at a common past that we can use to bring North and South Korea together, and developing also these project design and tools for digital engagement. One of the examples we used was a Padlet. So we tried to gather different ideas of the program. What do we want to see in the DMZ? This is this idea of the livable frontier. Here we see these cranes dancing in the DMZ. So this idea that North and South Koreans, and we can see, the women dancing together, the shamans dancing, the cranes dancing. So we come together in this couple who dance together. Women design the DMZ. So these are just some images generated by AI showing that we can very quickly generate images. Of course, that's not what we want to do. We want to co-create a space, an incubator, and say what activities and programs would we like to see, what functions, what can it produce, how do we imagine this space, scale and form, what is the most earth-friendly infrastructure we can imagine in symbiosis with ecosystem and species. How can we access it? How does it relate to the environment in the DMZ? How can it act as an incubator seed for the development of regenerative and sustainable place for women, peace and environment? And how can we engage the participation of North Koreans and North Korean women? So just a few images generated by AI. So this is not what we want to do, but just to say that, we can create images as well very quickly, but we have also a very long process and engaging with all different stakeholders. 감사합니다. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I had my two Korean assistants working here, smiling the whole time through that whole PowerPoint. So I think what we can see is as we reach out and bring in new partners, we bring in a lot of creativity, a lot of specialization. Many of these slides that Anna showed were things that we gathered and collected when we prepared for the Geneva Peace Week several years ago. And we really reached out to so many different sectors, to people had never thought of the idea before, but just dropped the idea and asked them, can you think about it a little bit and maybe send us your thoughts about what could happen there, how it could happen, would you like to be a part of it? And we got so many amazing ideas, actually. So, of course, now we have to go into the stage where we have to do something about it. And we don't want to be, stopped by the fact that no one can imagine how you could get into North Korea at this time. We will find a way. So now I want to maybe open to invite our participant, one of our participants from South Korea, who has a presentation for us as well. Her name is Dr. Hwajin Song. She has a doctorate in sociology from the Academy of Korean Studies. She is a visiting fellow in Korean Studies at Durham University of UK. So, and she is Secretary General of Women's Federation in Korea. So it's a perfect kind of conduit for us in this project. So Dr. Song, you have the floor.
Thank you. So let me share my screen first, and then I will present my PPT. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hwajin Song. I'm really grateful to speak to this great event. As a South Korean woman, I'm very grateful for Ms. Herman and Mrs. Hanshin and other international participants to pay warm attention to my home country, Korea. And I believe that this division and conflict, and then this hoping for security and peace, is not only matter of Korean, but it is something universal we can all relate to, and then we can work together. So let me start my PowerPoint. The title is What Could Creating a Space in the DMZ Mean for Young South Koreans? So I think it's sort of responding to Dr. Anna's great presentation, and I'm representing Korean young people in this presentation.
Hello, we're not receiving any sound. Carolyn, did you mute?
Yes. Oh, the whole time you didn't hear anything from her?
If we could just go back a couple of slides, please. And
Okay.
Carolyn, if you could keep your microphone on, then we can
Sure.
hear her
Okay.
presentation, please.
So they cannot listen my voice?
Because
Okay, we still cannot hear you.
You cannot.
okay. Now
So Carolyn, if you can keep your microphone live,
okay, it is, yes.
How is
Okay,
it sound now?
we can hear your sound now.
If I speak louder, was it okay?
Maybe.
Yes,
So from the
you sound
beginning.
very good.
Okay.
Okay, let me start from the beginning. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe I can start from here. So I'm here to represent Korean young people. Thank you for your warm attention to my home country, Korea. I was born in 1981 and I'm 44 years old in Korean age. I'm a X generation. My generation is very familiar with the song Our Wish is Unity, and we are also familiar to such emotional scene that, for example, reuniting families separated by war. So until 1990, in my country, there was a unification policy centering on ethnic justification for unification. So which means we are one nation, we are one ethnic group, so we have to reunite. That was familiar with my generation. But I'm representing young people in Korea at the moment. So we are facing sort of new generation called MZ generation. They have very pessimistic view on the unification of Korea. As you see, 80% of them, they don't have a favorable view of North Korea. And then 61% of them said that they don't think South and North reunification is necessary. So in Korea at the moment, it's big great concern for the country because young people is our future, but they don't want reunification of Korea. So that's big concern of our country. But I want to somehow explain why those young people think that way. It's not because they are selfish. They have some reason because despite of our economic development, our young people have very pessimistic view of their future. They think their social class is already decided when they are born in, so they cannot change their social status. I mean, they cannot go up to their social status, and then that's the one reason that we have the lowest birth rate at the moment from the world. You can see that it's less than 1%. And then those young people have such a pessimistic view of the future, but our unification policy have somehow focused on economic point of view. They say that unification cost is much lesser than unification benefits. So they wanted to emphasize that unification will be good for you in a financial way. But for those young people who have pessimistic view of their future, they only focus on cost, not the benefit. That's one of the reasons. And then next, those generation only see those pessimistic reality of our country. They saw that Kaesong industrial complex is closed down, and then they saw this bombing of North and South joint office, and then in the news they always see those missile launch by Jong Un Kim. So those young people doesn't have any good memory, doesn't have any good image of North Korea. All they have is those pessimistic images and news through either television or SNS. And then I want to also focus on their geographical perception. If you see this first map, that is the map of Korean Peninsula, but some people argue that South Korea is an island, not a peninsula, because we cannot go abroad through road or by train, but we can only go abroad through airport or by port. So that means these Korean young people have such a conception of like we are an island. And then if we see this, see the picture of right side, we can imagine that if Korea is united, we can go to Russia, China, Mongolia, even go to Europe by train and by the road. But Korean young people doesn't have such perception of geographic view of Korea. So that's our reality. So I want to say we need a real project in a real place that can show more positive possibilities on the unification of Korea for young people. And then where should such projects be located at? As you already know the answer, I want to emphasize the DMZ with my personal stories visiting DMZ area. In 2024, this year, I visited Goseong, and then I took this picture by myself, and then quite surprised that Kumgang Mountain is really close. I could see my own eye because luckily it was very fine weather. And then when I prepared this presentation, I looked through Google Map and I realized it's really close, only 23 minutes by car from this point to Kumgang Mountain. But I'm sure most Korean young people doesn't think of this way, it's that close. And next of my experience is I visited Dorasan, and then I could see Kaesong industrial complex with my eyes, and then realized it's really close. And then again, I looked through Google Map. It was 14 minutes by car. It's that near from this point to Kaesong complex. And before that, I participated the DMZ unification walking event with my two daughters. You can see they are my two daughters. And then I could see this, what is that, wire fence. And then I was walking along this wire fence and talking to my daughters how we can imagine the reunification of Korea, and then what you two can do if our country is unified in the future. Such hopeful discussion was possible because it was done in the real spot, near the DMZ and in the DMZ. And another point is participation is important. As you all know, the participation, I'm going to read it out. As the UN Women, Peace and Security Agenda states, peace building process require the participation and representation of all those who are affected by conflict. The participation and representation of all those who will live in the effects of wealth is essential. This is a good point of our event today. This will be my last contribution for today. I searched it and then was recommended by one of my staff from my office. And then there was a very good benchmarking place of this near DMZ. The name is Korea DMZ Peace Life Valley in Inje, Gangwon-do. You can see this whole complex, and there was a facilities, peace library, seminar room, concert hall, restaurant, everything, and farming. There is an educational program where participants can do some ecological experience, cultural experience, and etc. That can be good benchmarking model for our project. So this is conclusion. I'm going to read it out. If an actual space on the theme of women, peace, and environment is created in the DMZ area, young Koreans will be able to come to the DMZ, participate in peace activities, and have more positive perception of unification and imagine a unified Korea. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Of course, the participation of someone who really lives in Korea and represents the sector that she does is so, so, so important. Maybe since we don't have so many speakers, I want to just come back with a question to you right away, if you don't mind. If you think about this, like this most recent development of this project of creating a virtual model, and so that means bringing people, probably more so young people, together to really think about what this could be like. And is that a realistic project? Do you think that would help young people in South Korea who have these kind of skills to make them more kind of have more affinity to this idea of reunification, but also this project?
Yeah, about the Metaverse project. Yes, yeah, I also teach university student, and then I see so much potential of those young people. And then, as you know, the more they engaged in, then the better they learn. So this engagement and participation is a really important key to educate young people. We were very inspired by this idea of creating a space in a metaverse because honestly speaking, so I should be honest here, honestly speaking, in Korea, those projects to promote reunification of Korea is quite old-fashioned. And then young people are not inspired of those educational programs. So I was listening to Dr. Anna's presentation and Adriana's presentation, thinking that these are really inspiring for Korean people, and it will be very attractive for Korean government officials. So I think it's a really good idea to do something, to build something in a metaverse area. That's all from my side.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Wajin. So shall we, Sarah, shall we take a few questions? Lois, a few questions from the audience?
All right, here we go.
Is there something in the chat, or would
There's
you?
nothing, no question. I hope that the Korean young people, with their ideas, their creativity, their commitment, will be a mix of male and female.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hmm?
You want to add to that?
Yes, it should be. Yeah, I think that's an important point.
And also, if you have a dimension that is intergenerational, because the old people remember the war and have probably been separated from family, and this would build ties.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And also, I heard another opinion that it's better to include the voice of North Korean people. I think we can do through North Korean defectors living in South Korea.
Yeah.
So adding to your comment, that's sort of intergenerational, and then bridging gender gap and bridging North and South Korea people. That's very important. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, I think also of course, whenever we make these events, I don't know how many, maybe 15 so far on this topic. Of course, we always want to hear from the North Korean side, but it's also a delicate point politically, because if we obviously invite in North Korean defectors, and we want to kind of name them as such, of course, that's maybe pushing the North Korean government a little bit away from us. So we have to, I think these steps we have to do it very carefully, actually, because we need the North Korean government actually to be in this. And maybe Lois, now I will go into our final. I'm not sure why she couldn't get in. Our last speaker would have been Irina Chen, and she was so excited to join us, actually. I had met her in Korea at a summit last year, and discovered through a conversation with her, first her interest in Korea, and she's Russian. She was living in Russia at the time. That's all I knew. And then later learned from her that actually her ancestors were from North Korea. And so we stayed in contact, and finally she moved to Seoul. She is actually living in Seoul now. And she has all kinds of history. She lived in Israel. Actually, she has quite a history of experience with conflict, reconciliation, is really passionate. But actually I will just read her CV. I mean, a few thoughts from her CV. And because when I told her about this project, not having any idea about her kind of history, her lineage, she got so excited. She said, this is what she wrote to me the first time. I'm a participant at the Venice Architecture Biennial, architect designer, prize winner of international competitions, which I went on to see. She has like 3 different countries, national level awards. I think she's end of her 20s, she's quite young. But her area is in designing the environment and objects of the future. Improving the level and quality of life is how she defines her work. And she said at the end that I would be so delighted to contribute to the development of your great mission, especially beginning in the metaverse. So actually, without even asking her to take time to design it, she very quickly sent us a design in the metaverse of just an idea for such a project. So I think we're trying to, with my great tech team here, we're trying to find to let you share that with us.
Yes, try.
Yes, thank you for sending over the link. If you can provide access to me, I can get it set up.
Right. Do you want me try here first?
Sarah, could she?
Sarah needs some time. Let me play and see that it works.
Yes.
Yeah, I will try.
Okay.
Oh, my team sent the access to you, Sarah.
Oh yeah, they sent you access, Sarah, if that helps.
Yes, I'll work on that.
Okay. Should we take a question from the audience, or can we go right into this?
Oh, I see one question from my side.
Yeah.
Do you see Q&A?
Okay. Okay. Please go ahead. If you see it, you can go ahead and
Yes,
answer it.
I can see one question. It's from Dr. Seung-ho Lee. I will read it out.
Okay.
I saw in the PPT presentation, unification benefits far outweigh the unification cost. How can we educate this point to Korean young people? That was the question.
Okay, that's to you.
Yes, to me. Yeah, it's a good point. But I was saying that sort of approach doesn't work for our young people because somehow it draws their attention to financial point of view. And personally, I think that doesn't work. But Dr. Lee asked that how can we educate them this point? So I would say we can include such content to somehow more innovative method, just Adriana and Dr. Anna introduced. Otherwise, just teaching them in the classroom doesn't work anymore. So we need to change our approach of educational method. That's all from my side at the moment. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Wajin. Anyone else from the audience would like to ask a question? Sarah's ready, huh? Okay. Okay, maybe we'll let Sarah. Sarah, could you show that little video clip then from Irina Chin?
Yes, I'll go ahead and show
Yeah.
it. One moment.
Okay.
I am Irina Chen, an architect, designer, and member of the Russian Designers Union. I was born in Sakhalin Island into a Korean family. The history of the division of Korean families between North and South is not just part of my family's past, but also a source of inspiration for action today. I started drawing before I could even use a spoon, and one of my works was purchased by Jacques Cousteau when he visited the school where I studied. My works have received numerous global awards, and I have participated in many exhibitions. Winning an architecture competition during my student years allowed to learn from the finest German architects in Venice and participate in the architecture biennale. In my projects, I merge architectural innovations, artistic mastery, and cutting-edge technologies. I have dedicated many years to education and practice to end up here by fate, to be united by forces of women and sketch the route to the future. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. These words hold special significance in our time. Amid heightened tensions between South and North Korea, art inspired by women becomes a neutral language and the first step in communication, inspiring dialogue and path to peace. Virtual exhibitions, musical concerts, and lectures all naturally fit into our project, becoming symbols of reconciliation between nations. Our initiative begins with creating a space filled with hope, collaboration, and inspiration for prosperity in the future through creativity and communication. We invite you to join us on the unique journey towards peace. Together, we can overcome political, physical, and psychological barriers to create a bright, sustainable future for all. Let the space of creativity and peace become the starting point for developing the infrastructural zone, which will unite both sides in the future.
Okay. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Irina. I'm sorry you're not here live with us. But as you could see, that again, coming back to the more creative minds and peace-loving, especially youth, I would say that we can reach out to. Really, there's a great, great, great potential of actually being able to realize this project. And I hope we have, even related to Adriana's idea with teaching young people. I think we will follow up on that, and we will be proposing courses, working together with her to propose courses and working on these different AI and metaverse areas with young people in South Korea and North, if possible, to see if we can't really come up with something that is really attractive also to the governments, and that we can, in fact, establish this place as a first point of peace in the DMZ. Lois?
Yes, I think that the ideas presented today are really remarkable. They're creating a reality, and people have to see what is possible. But is there any way to have someone from the North Korea side participate in some of this planning, design, environmental support? Is there any way?
Wajin, I can't answer that myself.
Okay.
Wajin, you know?
Yes, there are quite big community of those North Korean defectors, young people. Personally, I met some of them, and then they are already quite settled, and they have some sort of professional job in their own field. I only know some artists and only know some professors, but I'm sure that we could reach to those people who are doing architect or studying in environmental area. So at the moment, I cannot name them, but I think there is possibility to reach out to them.
Is there any way to dialogue with teachers in North Korea who might be supportive of the idea?
Oh,
I'm
you
an
mean in,
idealist like Carolyn. I believe it's possible.
hmm,
It's not easy. I understand.
someone in North Korea or now in South Korea?
I think she was asking in North Korea.
In North
currently.
Korea.
Yeah.
Our relationship to North Korea is not really good nowadays. As far as I know, we cannot access to someone in North Korea. As far as I know at the moment. Yeah.
But there have been times when we were
Yeah.
closer. Even our
Yeah.
own organization
Sure.
has
Yes.
been closer. So I think if the echo is going out that we're doing these kind of things, you know, at a moment of opening, I think it's possible that these ideas could get there. We will definitely try, right, from our side there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
We
would be
should
a
have-
landmark project that we could show as a model in other places in the world and build this particular space.
Yes.
It has so many positives.
Yes. In fact, could Nana, are you on the call? I had just yesterday at the UN at the opening session at the the UN Secretary General at the CSW yesterday. I sat next to a young woman who actually we also got into this conversation about this event. She's from Azerbaijan, and when she heard, she is a young lawyer. Actually, quite a you know, I think she was Secretary General of a very famous Young Lawyers Global Association. And when she heard this idea of what we wanted to do at the Korean DMZ, she said she would love to help see that come to her between like Armenia and Azerbaijan. And she felt the young people at this time are actually tired of war and they are like ready to do something. So I think so. I think we have to maybe work harder and try harder and see where else this could resonate, because maybe people are prepared, and especially if young people are prepared for this. Yeah. Shall we? Is there Donna? You're not there on the call. I think she maybe was there, but maybe she couldn't stay till the end. Yeah, maybe not. Anyway, maybe with that, shall we close 10 minutes early? Or is that fine,
Yep.
Lois?
I would like to say also that I've read that there's interest in having art and crafts, handicrafts included in this project. And I think that would be good for both sides if we could do that. That would be an entry point.
Absolutely. This actually, when we reached out for our Geneva Peace Week project, we actually got in touch with some, I mean, I remember in particular one woman in Germany who already has some kind of under the banner of humanitarian kind of small development project. She has some connection in North Korea with women, and the idea of some natural, you know, some natural kind of, what do you call it? Beauty products, huh?
Yeah,
and even these kind of things, of course, that would be, you know, to start at that level would be very, would be fantastic. And of course, well appreciated, uncomplicated normally. So it looks like there are things like that being done, but maybe we could find a way to funnel that. And she herself, this woman was very excited about the idea of making that a part of our project, her little effort there to bring that into that project. So I think with women and bright young people, we have to work hard and realize this project. Lois, thank you so much for your partnership and friendship. And she said to me earlier, we have to make this kind of event 3 times a year so people don't forget.
Well,
Don't forget about it.
the awareness is often skewed with the
Yeah.
headlines about Ukraine and the Middle East and
That's right.
China. So this is our way of telling people about the project, and hopefully we can draw more people who are very interested. But
Yeah.
I compliment WFWPI because you have the benefit of having people right in Korea. This isn't a long distance project. This is integral,
Mhm.
very much on the ground.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's a big step for us, Lois. This event was a big
Indeed.
step. So thank you so much to our audience for all those. I think this will be posted on the platform, and we will put it on our websites, and I hope this can be shared around. And we're looking for partners. So if you feel there's something you could contribute to this, or you're a young person who is interested, no, not only a young person, if you're a person who's interested in this, somehow engaging as a designer, or, please get in touch with us, and let's realize this together.
And
Thank you
send
again.
me the updated concept statement, please.
Yes,
And I'll
I will
send
do
it out
that.
all over the world. Thank you
Okay.
to all of you. We're sisters in this project.
And yes, and thank you, Sarah, for your background work for us. You don't want to turn your camera on for a moment?
Yes, I certainly can.
It was
Okay, good.
wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mhm.
bye-bye, and
Ciao. Bye.
all the best for your work at the CSW. Thank you. Hope to see you
Yes,
around the halls of the UN. Thank you.
thank you.
Bye-bye.